passed in December. The exact timing of this funding is unclear at this moment. The Porter Group will contact us. So that's a quick summary, and they will provide this summary to us in written form. As you sit with these guys, they are intense, they're right to the point, and they got their ducks in a row in the White House, and I'll turn it over to Ed now.
I can't add much to that other than the fact that I'm totally impressed with Cameron and the gentleman there. When you listen to them, they're so knowledgeable about what's going on with that stuff, and they're staying right on top of it. And you know, I was a little apprehensive last meeting about spending $4,000, and you know, I think that's probably one of the best moves we made. I mean, they're awesome, and they're working really, really hard for us. There is one thing that I would like to mention, that each one of our legislators back there only get 10 bill drafts, or not bill drafts, what they call them, a portion. So, Horsford's going to, he got the first one because the Congress meets for the budget stuff ahead of him, but there's only 10 projects there that will fund some. And I think that Pipeline County and the city of Ely, this project on Main Street down here is well ahead of other communities, so we've probably got a pretty good shot at that being more than 10. I'd almost bet money we would be from them. So I'm excited about it. These guys are intense, like Jim said. I mean, I don't think Cameron sleeps. I just don't know how he can do all he does. Anyway, that's all I have.
Thanks for that update. Are there any questions from the council?
Let me ask, BJ, did you want to add anything, or we covered it pretty good? Thank you, BJ's been really put on the spot. He gets a notice on Friday to be the meeting Monday, and he's doing a lot of our homework. Thanks, BJ.
It's been a busy week, and so we're compiling. We're trying to get a draft of all of the things that Jim just expressed out to tomorrow in terms of drafts, so that we can clean it all up next week, and it's due next Friday. So it is a challenge. We're working with compiling all this information. The only thing I requested out of him is I surely will put my best effort in there as far as giving a draft outline of what each of these projects are, but I told him that I'm an engineer, I'm not Tom Clancy, and so I'm not the best writer in the world. So they can take all the information that we provide.
You say Tom Clancy is the best writer in the world?
I'm not saying he's much better than me. And so he can take and use their creative writing and take the information that we provide them and clean it up for them. So we're in the process of compiling all that stuff. Some of the things that we're doing, when Jim expressed our number 2 on there was sewer and water. We're really focusing down in Central Ely. That sewer down in Central Ely is 1905 or 1915. We've already made some pre-phase improvements already up to this point, so now it's time to get through the rest of down in Central Ely. And then the other portion of the water we're looking at down in the lower portion of East Ely, trying to open it up and get more major lines and upsize some of our small 4-inch, 6-inch mains that are out in East Ely, so that we have better flow of our water coming from the golf course well, 17th and Emerald back into town. So those are the things that we're compiling, and we should be able to have some rough drafts tomorrow. I'll probably get with Jim and Ed tomorrow and go over kind of some rough drafts where we are now before we turn it over all the way to the board. So that's where we are.
Great.
Any questions?
Exciting stuff.
Don't forget my money.
Is there anything else on the discussion item?
No.
Thank you very much.
commend both Council President and BJ for the work they're doing on this, because it's very, very fruitful for the city of Ely. I was against the program, but boy, I'm glad we went for it.
Thank you, Ray.
With that, since it's 5:35, we will move back to item 6. The mayor will recess the regular city council meeting for a public hearing at 5:30 p.m. on the following topic. I need to announce really quick for anybody who's on Zoom, please remain muted while you're listening in. It makes it easier for everybody else to hear. If you're on the phone, that's *6 to mute yourself. We're going to go with item 1, Council Member Public Works Supervisor Craycraft, public hearing, discussion only, presentation of the preliminary designs of the Jack Taylor Park, Southern Nevada Land Management Act improvement project.
Everybody's got a design. Yes,
These look great.
they do. They're fantastic, don't they?
Yeah.
As you can see, it would be more of a pavilion down on the corner. more family style, bigger barbecues, finish the parking lot, parking area, restrooms, horseshoe pits, the landscaping. We're relocating the swing sets and stuff, we're making a bigger playground area right, in that area.
Those existing swing sets are gonna be moved to this existing place?
They're there already.
Sure, but you said you were moving them?
They'll be moved back,
Okay.
and then it'll make a bigger playground area there.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they're kind of combined.
Yeah. See, yeah, you see what it is now. It'll be, just to be a really nice addition down there.
Mike, we discussed one time about the restroom, that prefab restroom. So we're gonna get that. Did they determine if it was gonna be boy, girl? The picture shows boy, girl, but the price of those just
That's the key.
totally blew me away.
That's the key. What we got, I think, want to say 500,000 to spend on this, so they were very pricey. So, I mean, the way I was explaining it by Cody Hopper with civil science was simple projects like this, he breaks them down in 8 phases, and we're in phase 2 right now, the concept. Then we're going in enviro and all that stuff, and then we'll start spending money, and then we'll just stretch it out as far as we can make it go.
So you've been working with the county who's administering this and working with civil science?
Well,
Is that right?
actually, Cody's been just contacting us, so.
Okay.
And we met,
I don't know that I have any notes necessarily. I think it's a great design, and I do understand what Councilman Allworth is saying about the cost of those prefab restrooms, but I mean, when you look at it, and we've installed a number of these, when you look at the bang for the buck, building a building like that would cost more than that, which is still dumbfounding, but, you know, they're bonded, quite honestly. I mean, and they're a real good bang for your buck, I think.
One question, Mike, is there any kind of lighting? Is it out there already or not? That's the one thing I looked through. I was just wondering about lighting. You know, sometimes when the playground was down, when we had the fire department downtown here, the lighting also brings out night critters.
yeah.
So,
That's a good question, because when we met down there, we talked about having some security lights on, and I don't see them, so that is something. We'll have to-
yeah, so check into that.
Yes, absolutely, I didn't notice it.
But sometimes the lights, you know, I mean, the kids play after dark, which kids are okay, but it's the kids that don't have parents hanging around that end up raising heck.
Oh, yeah.
This is a public hearing, so we will entertain any comments from the public, either on Zoom or here as well.
There you go.
Are there any comments from the public on this hearing?
Hello?
Are you doing public comment in Jeff Haley Park?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Maureen Optelberger. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, go ahead.
I'm concerned about that park because of the closeness of the railroad. This park must be completely fenced with a gate on Avenue A. Also, the lot next door has a lot of weeds, and there's an old boat there, and the children, I guess teenagers, are playing on it, so that is a hazard too. So, there's 3 neighbors on Avenue B. They were never notified of any changes or anything, so I don't know if you have to notify them because of the renovation of the park. So that's all I have to say, but like I say, it's really a danger out there. Children will get out, the balls will run out in the street, and they'll be out there by the river. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in regards to the Snickerville improvements for Jack Taylor Park, they should be dropped altogether. The children's park should never be built across from a working railroad, which is not fenced. Some of the previous improvements on the west side along Avenue A have encroached on private property. Avenue A is private property. On the north side of the park, someone has parked an old derelict boat with broken windows. I mentioned that more than once. This is not the good ship lollipop. That area is not fenced, and it is a dangerous, attractive nuisance. I remind you of the tragic accident that happened when the county annex was torn down by a non-caring, negligent contractor causing substantial bodily harm to a young child. That child and others were sleigh riding nearby. A pile of construction waste that was not fenced off was run into by the child. I don't know who the engineer was that did that phase one, but he needs to be blackballed. Where was the due diligence? Why do we pay these professionals? The Central Ely Park on Orson Avenue was closed and served a variety of ethnic and economically challenged families. The city removed the equipment from there in favor of Cater Park. You need to close Cater Park, move it away from the railroad, move it back to Orson Avenue, and look for safety. You're not addressing safety at all. Young kids, with that area not being fenced, that railroad yard is an attractive nuisance. When I worked for Kennecott Copper in McGill, we had 6-foot chain link fence. We had road patrol to make sure that we didn't have any kids coming onto the property. And now you've got a historical railroad, you're creating a liability that isn't needed. That's all I have at this time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other public comment? Discussion from the council or anyone else? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close the hearing and return to the city council meeting. Back to, I believe, roll item 7. Councilman Allworth, discussion for possible action, approval of comment letters on White Pine Pump Hydro Project Draft Environmental, Visual, and Aesthetic Resource Study, Preliminary Jurisdictional Determination Study, Rare Threatened and Endangered Wildlife Species Assessment, Recreation Resources Study, Special Status for Plants and Noxious Weed Study, and Cultural Resources Study. You have a draft that was sent out on that. Jim, did you want to add something?
I'd just like to make comments on this. I'd like to thank the city clerk for doing 99% of the work on this draft. This is a huge project, and she's mentioned in this, which is going to be duly noted by them, is we need to have more public hearings on this, workshops, that I want to guarantee you 99% of the public do not know what this project's about, what the impact's going to be in the Duck Creek Basin. And again, this is huge. This packet that Jennifer, the city clerk, put out on a page and a half, and the packet we were given is a 1/4 inch thick with all kinds of maps. She's done an excellent job highlighting on some of the concerns that she felt was warranted. Again, you know, we represent the citizens of the city of Ely who recreate over in Duck Creek, and the impact what's going to happen to the water levels and so forth. But please, as is mentioned in closing, please become more transparent to our citizens who are all stakeholders, and have public hearings for this. Please have public hearings for this project. And the last letter we sent to them, we made mention we need to send it to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I believe Patty and the city treasurer, they did get that connection done. The same letter needs to go to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, also known as FERC. It's important that the word gets out. We have got to have more public input on this. That's it. Thank you.
I would just like to say that I think public input is great, and if that's what you're wanting, fantastic, but I'm not a fan of sending out a letter in opposition to this when you are clearly stating that more information is needed before any decision is made. So if you're opposing this project, while we're still saying we don't have enough information and we need to have more public hearings, I think that's
With all due respect, we're not opposing nothing in this letter. We're saying we want more public hearings, nowhere we mention sage grouse, off-road hiking, bicycling. We're just mentioning points, but it does not say nothing. We are opposed to it. We want more stakeholder input.
it just states that it will have a negative impact on the area that we live in and the beauty of the area and the wildlife, when what you're asking for is more public. I mean, if you're saying we need more public input, and then saying this is just gonna trash our whole, the whole aesthetics of our area, without that public input, I don't agree with that.
Okay, have you reviewed the maps? Have you seen where it's going in Duck Creek?
I sure have.
Okay, where is it going in Duck Creek? How big will the upper reservoir be in the Duck Creek Basin?
So I can tell you right now, I do not have yet an opinion on this project.
No, that's not my question, Councilwoman.
Right, but
My
I'm not
question
here
is,
to
where
be
is
interrogated.
where is the impact in the Duck Creek Basin?
I'm not here to be interrogated. I'm just saying, if we need more public input, then let's get that before sending out a letter like this. That's all I'm saying.
This is the second letter we sent out. You missed the last meeting when we sent the first one.
It did?
So, these are, as I understand it, reviewing the material, individual separate studies, is that correct? On these
Correct, I
different
understand. They're gonna keep coming with these studies. And if you note this study in this big packet we have that we're giving to us, the results of this study are not even gonna be reviewed until December 21st of 2021. So they are loading the train, per se, to move everything forward. But they want us to comment on stuff that we really don't have all the information. You read the document, which is, like I said, all that document, you touch on every one of these, you gotta touch on something on it. But this is not, these are going to regulatory commission people 8 months from now.
I'll entertain a motion on this, or correction for
I
comment.
make a motion, we send a letter to them with a copy to go to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
I'll second.
Second from, I have a motion from Councilman Aldred and a second from Councilman Carson. Any further discussion on this item?
I have a comment with that. After reading the entire document thoroughly, again and again, the questions that Councilman Allworth has exposed are not answered. And I think we should go along with trying to review this and get as much information and let as much of the public know about this, because if you talk to anybody on the street, they haven't got an idea one. I think it's time it should come forward.
One final comment, we're talking about these studies they wanted to do. This project, once it's 5 years to design, 10 years to build, gonna last for 78 years, 78 years, I believe. 78 years ago, we had no idea we were gonna have a machine moving around on Mars. We never thought we'd have electric cars. To say this project is gonna be there in 75 years, we're all gonna be gone. But the scar that's going to be left in the Duck Creek Basin, the water reservoir pulled down, they may end up with take for example, trying to give an example, an aircraft carrier the United States has runs on nuclear energy. Over 5,000 soldiers, airmen, sailors are on that. 5,000 people. They never have to go get filled up with gas or nothing. Technology will change. We may have a nuclear item as big as that cabinet right there, which might fund all this. And another thing, I've done a lot of research on this. This is a popular process of doing this, but they come off rivers and lakes, not pumping groundwater and pushing it up over the hill 2,800 feet and building a pond in the middle of Duck Creek Basin up on the top at 8,500 feet, 2 times the size of Cave Lake. Completely fenced, 2 paved roads going up there. So that's why we need to get more comment. If Schwartzman knew, you will go from Axel Springs to McGill Springs to Peacock Springs to this area, a paved road, heavy equipment, bigger than what we see in this town. 2 roads, and a paved roads on the west side of Duck Creek Basin. And what's happening on this side, where the church farm is, and those farms out there, they want to pump water in December and January. good luck pumping water in freezing temperature. Cave Lake freezes at that elevation, what's gonna happen at 8,500 feet? Thank you.
Are there further discussions on this item? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Item 8, Councilman Alward's discussion for possible action on approval of monthly balance sheets for general fund, street fund, and enterprise fund.
I've looked these over real well, talked to the city treasurer. She answered all my questions I have on them, and a quick summary, looking at your balance sheet, that's the condition of your business. And right now, when I see this here, our businesses are all doing well.
Well, if I could just add to that, having just gone through the budget process, I really couldn't be more impressed with how well our departments are budgeting. The job they're doing now versus 2 years ago when this new council came on is just night and day. I really have to give a pat on the back to all of our department heads and everybody working in those departments. They're making the city much more financially feasible than it's probably been in quite a while. So, with that, I will entertain a motion on the approval for this.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 9, Councilwoman Beecher, City Fire Chief Stork. Discussion only, review of draft open burning permit application.
Okay, you get a copy of this in your packet. The mayor actually approached me about drafting up something to come up with, which coincides with the new nuisance abatement resolution stuff that we did. So I made up a draft. This is just kind of a one-page simple thing. Open for any input changes anybody wants with it. I've researched it quite a bit with other areas, other departments, kind of plagiarized off some of the stuff they were doing and, pulled it together out of 4 or 5 different departments, so that's kind of where we're at with that. I do think we should probably charge somewhat of a fee for this. That's going to be, you guys can decide. And, we definitely would limit the time. We definitely don't want to be doing no open burning during the summertime and stuff like that, so I'm thinking more like October through March, early April type activities. Other than that, people need to be hauling stuff off. This gives us a better opportunity to, I don't know how many times in the past we've had people, oh yeah, I just gotta burn a little weeds, and then we get a call to go over there and they got car tires and Christmas boxes and everything else they're burning, so definitely it'll give us a lot more control than what we got now, because there's actually nothing in place now that I know of.
Well, and the other objective here was to kind of firm on how the public interacts with our fire department. In the past, even, no matter if it's a bonfire or a group or whatever it is, it's just, hey, someone make sure they call the fire department. City Hall usually doesn't know, so that, our clerk and staff are getting calls, they don't know what's going on. This way, there's a paper trail. We know that they've gone through a certain checklist. As the chief mentioned, this is listed in our codes. We want to make sure we're doing what's in our codes and our updated nuisance things to kind of make sure this is a cleaner process.
Chief, could you touch on item number 4, the burn hours, and why the hours are they, what they are?
So the main reason I put that in, and this will all be dependent on, how weather changes when we put in like a no burn clause. So the reason we run into that is in the summertime, by noon, 11:30, the humidity starts dropping, going into the single digits, which makes your fire danger a lot higher. But also with that is that's when people's houses start getting warmer and they start turning on their swamp coolers, which is when we start getting all of our complaints, because then everybody's saying, oh, my neighbor's burning and my house is full of smoke, because around here, a lot of people use swamp coolers. So figure if we can shut off the burning at noon, no smoke by 1 o'clock, then we'll try and alleviate some of the complaints and problems with neighbors.
And what are we thinking about cost? Do you have any idea?
And cost?
Yeah.
I don't. I've looked at like Elko County, Smith Valley. They range anywhere from $25 to $75, so I mean, it's just whatever. You know, it don't go back to my pocket, so it's up to you guys, and I guess to decide on what the cost should be.
Zero.
My personal thought on that, the fire department's outstanding. The exposure, traveling around, inspecting these areas is well worth no monetary value. I mean, it's a value, but I don't think we should charge for it. That's, they're protecting us and, they're being funded. So that's my thought, no charge for this service.
Good idea.
My only note on this is I assume you guys will be providing this to the clerk's office once it's filled out, so that they're aware of that there is a burn permit, so that they can
Right.
respond.
So that's something we just have to finalize, is make it out in a carbon copy type form where, or make photocopies that get distributed to whoever, so everybody knows that they've got an active permit.
Would we need to have actually a hearing, a meeting and approve this? Now it's discussion only.
Yeah, so this is
We would have to
discussion
have
only.
a meeting and then before you go ahead, if you get it all put up, so that it would be through this council that it's be approved.
Yes, so we're not approving it tonight, it's discussion only, to kind of check the temperature, because although it is bringing us more in compliance with ordinances, we will have to make some ordinance changes likely, just to ensure that all of this is outlined in our ordinances.
Okay.
And so we didn't want to start doing, I don't want to start doing any ordinance changes if this was an absolute no from the council. So it's more just to fill the water and make the changes and then bring it back before the council for approval and ensure that we have our ordinances where they need to be.
I think it's a great idea.
Any other discussion on this item?
Just one item, please consider penalty, fire chief, if somebody burns and they're not in compliance with this permit when you do your review of this. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9 then. Councilwoman Beecher, City Fire Chief Stewart, discussion only. Review of draft fireworks display application and permit.
This one kind of comes out off of the same thing. We had the fireworks show, Fire and Ice, I guess it was the last one we did. Real good show, everything went good. Then I had some of the other people come and complaining to me, so I thought, well, maybe we better have something in place to where we know who's doing what's on the thing. Part of the thing with the displays that I really liked about the last one was they brought us maps that showed exactly where they were going to be doing their show. And that's kind of a standard checking around the state. It's not necessarily the same thing, some that don't really need to be charged a fee, but we need to get all the information of who's doing the show, are they licensed, do they have liability insurance, make sure we got all of that stuff in place, so.
And this was another item where it's listed in the code that they have to get permission.
Right, and when we come into that, we're like, I
So
don't know,
they
we draft
write
up
the
something
letter,
to
yeah.
sign, so, same thing, it's pretty straightforward. Most of the information they've already probably provided to the fire marshal's office, so it should be simple for them to get and just attach copies for us, so that's kind of where that came from.
Cool.
Any other discussions or questions on this one? Okay, thank you for your work on that, Chief. Item 11, Councilwoman Beecher, City Fire Chief Stewart, discussion for possible action, direction to city staff to respond to neighboring counties regarding establishing mutual aid fire service agreements.
Okay, and this one comes basically from, right now, we don't know really where we stand 100%. We're got a cooperative agreement with the county. They've got some agreements with the outlying counties, but we're running with them. But should liability-wise, we should probably have some agreements in place. It don't gotta be nothing big, long, drawn out. Just a simple agreement like with Eureka, say, I use the example, we got the only ladder truck in this hemisphere. If they have a fire in their commercial, Main Street, they're more likely to call for us. If we have some kind of agreement in place, it'd be simpler to do than trying to get the mayor's approval or the council's approval. Can we respond over there? Can we respond? If we need them, if the bus going to the Ball Mountain Mine were to wreck over there, it's right next to Eureka, but it's in White Pine County, so vice versa, liability-wise, I'm not sure how all these agreements 100% work.